Hi, I'm Andy Weinberg with Miller Welders Motorsports. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about the Multimatic 215 and its hidden menu settings. The programming in the new Multimatic 215 is really good right from the factory. However, there are a couple adjustments you can make on the hidden menu screen to fine-tune some of that arc performance. We're going to go through some of those settings now. First, to get into the hidden menu screen, obviously the machine's got to be turned on, and you're going to want to be hitting the outer two buttons at the same time for a couple seconds and then release. That's going to bring up a new window on the digital screen. You'll see in the upper right hand corner, this is screen 1 of 10. There's 10 display screens in this menu setting. We can tab through those menus by either hitting the plus or the minus button of the material thickness settings. On menu number 1, this is an area where we can recalibrate the internal drive motor. It has a low speed setting and a higher speed setting. Initially, you're going to take the MIG gun and pull the trigger, and the machine is going to spool out at a low rate of speed, approximately 24 inches of wire. You're going to cut that off and measure it. If the wire is less than 24 inches, you need to recalibrate the microprocessor by adding however many inches of difference it takes to make up to 24 inches. So for example, if you only spooled out 22 inches of wire, you would set the low offset at 2 inches, and that would make up the difference. Then you're going to push the trigger again, and it's going to spool out at a fast rate of speed, again approximately 24 inches. You'll cut that off, measure it, and see what the difference is again. If you're spooling out more than 24 inches, then you're going to want to turn the adjustment so that it reads a negative number on the screen. And that will make up the difference and reprogram the microprocessor and calibrate the motor that's in the machine to the microprocessor. You'll want to make these adjustments if the auto set programs that are built in the machine seem to be off, because it's critical that the motor be calibrated so that the auto set settings that came from the factory work properly. Once we're done with that calibration, we're going to hit the plus on the material thickness button, and we're going to come to the internal motor run-in speed. With the new small frame Multimatic 215, when you pull the trigger, it runs in the wire a little bit slower than the setting you actually have on the front panel. This allows the wire to start better. Once the machine senses that you've established the arc, it runs up to those preset settings that you have on the machine. So it allows the wire to get started properly. This is great for doing tacks or small runs where you're on the trigger and you want that real positive arc start. The other reason that we put that slow run-in on the machine is because the wire quality that you can get today is nowhere near what it was 5 and 10 years ago. The quality of the weld wire has gone down over the years. So it's harder to strike the arc. Even though a wire may be classified, let's say an ER70S6 wire, that AWS classification is really the amount and percentages of certain materials that make up that wire. Those percentages can vary. It's no different than two people making a chocolate cake with the same ingredients, but using different amounts of them. It's still a chocolate cake. Same with wire. It still falls in that wire classification, but they perform differently. So in this menu, the internal run-in can be turned off if you like the machine to start the arc with the setting that you have set on the machine. So if you set 250 inches a minute of wire on the front of the machine and pull the trigger, with the run-in off, you'll get 250 inches a minute right when you pull the trigger. To turn that setting on or off, all you need to do is hit the button in the middle which says on or off, and it's actually the auto set button. Right now it's on, so if I press it, now it's going to say run-in disabled. That's going to give you the wire speed settings as you set it on the front panel. To turn it back on, just hit the auto set button again, and run-in is now enabled, and it allows for that slow start. If you've ever noticed that your wire has a big ball on the end, sometimes after welding, that big ball sometimes is double the size of the wire, and it takes a lot of power to burn that ball off. And sometimes you'll get this pop, pop, pop because it's trying to burn that wire off. Well, this slow run-in that the machine has really helps that problem. If we move on to menu number 3, again by hitting the plus button, we're getting into the Spoolmate calibration. This is the same sequence we just did on the internal motor calibration, except we have it for the spool gun. This is great because the machine can now calibrate itself to whatever spool gun you're plugging into the front of the machine. The sequence is the same. You're going to pull the trigger, run approximately 24 inches of wire out, and measure the difference. The next one is going to be menu number 4, and the Spoolmate also has a built-in run-in control, and you can turn that on or off as well. Menu number 5 is going to start your logs. So you have time logs, arc logs, you have times for running the machine on 120 volt and 240 volt. It measures all that and it logs that. They're just for information purposes. So number 6 is going to get into cycle times. Number 7 is going to be your error logs, if it picked up any overheating errors, or if you had an output, trigger, or motor error problem, it will log that here. Okay. Number 8 is going to be a menu that you may want to hit. If the microprocessor has a hiccup in it, or the machine appears to be welding improperly, you may want to go through a microprocessor reset. Menu number 8 is where you can reset the machine's internal microprocessor to the factory settings. To do that, you're going to come and set that into program number 8, and it says to reset the factory default, you're just going to press again the auto set. When you press it, the machine goes through a factory reset and goes all the way back to menu number 1. So now that we're back to menu number 1, we left off at 8. So I'm going to tab up to 8. So now that the machine has been reset, we went back up to that menu number 8. Menu 9 and 10 are simply just software revision numbers. Those are not adjustable by the user. To get out of the hidden menu, you're going to do the same thing you did to get in the menu, and that's just hit the 2 outside buttons again. I usually hold them down for a couple seconds and release them. It will then display your original weld settings. For more information on the Multimatic 215, visit millerwelds.com.